Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard their point. Now, hear the counterpoint on Libertarian Counterpoint podcasts.
Good afternoon and welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint podcast. We are coming at you on November 13th, 2020. It is a few weeks after about a week and a half after the elections now. And it's 2020, so of course there's chaos. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panelists. Up in our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Braithwaite, last word in liberty. And he is a retired engineer from the state of California. And on our upper right, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name's Jason McPhee, and I will be your host today. And so anyways, it's 2020, the election's sort of over.
What over. Wow, what a word. What a word.
Yeah. It's sort of over. I mean, for some people it's more over than others, I guess. But essentially, all the media has come out and declared Joe Biden the winner after a kind of a contentious few days of which way were a few, sort of battleground states going to go. But there's been some evidence of fraud in some states, but it's hard to tell if that evidence of fraud is enough to raised to the level of affecting the overall election. A lot of people are thinking at this point it doesn't seem like it, but that being the case, Trump is still pushing challenges in a lot of these areas. And so the question is it time for, should Trump continue the count or concede?
I say no, he should not concede, but I'm not saying that because I think Biden is demented or anything like that. I think Donald Trump should pursue every legal avenue there is available to him, at least until December 14th, when the Electoral College is scheduled to meet. Because what I don't like about all of this is the hypocrisy that is going on in the media right now. In 2020 years ago, when Al Gore was contesting the election, while true it was only in Florida he was contesting it, the media was out there cheering him on. And what Al Gore was doing was so sleazy and below the belt is unbelievable. He went into four counties in southern Florida, Democratic strongholds, counties in which nobody was doubting the outcome of the vote. And he was trying to scrape votes here to overtake George W. Bush. Everybody was thinking that was okay. Everybody in the media think that was okay. But now Donald Trump is contesting an election where there's enough suspicion of fraud. I am not saying I have any proof of this, and I'm not saying it's enough to change the outcome, but I think Trump should continue his efforts at least until the certification of the presidency, which occurs on December 14th.
Any thoughts from your eagle eye perspective, Tim?
Yeah, it's the eagle eye, but it's not a very eagerly ears because I've got the Bluetooth. I screwed up today, and I ended up with Bluetooth, which has a delay, and so I am being delayed here with what I say.
Like
anyway, but what?
Well, it's perfect, Tim. Just like our election, you're giving us a delayed response, so this is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, the media does not decide who is the winner, and the courts don't decide it, and I'm not sure that the Electoral College actually decides it for sure. But a couple of times in history, in the 1800s, there were people that were running for president or were already president. I'm not sure of the details, but that they did not concede. So who decides who wins an election is the loser decides when they concede. And if they don't concede, then the Constitution has a remedy for that in that the House of Representatives goes for a vote and votes on who would be the president, and they don't apparently they don't count it by their their numbers in Congress, Democrat or Republican, they decide they each get one vote from each state. And so
Yes,
apparently there's
delegation, yes.
37 states that are red and the rest, say again?
It's each state delegation, you're right, and it's 26 to 23 Republican.
I heard there was 37, but that are Republican. But it could go that way, and it could end up totally different. But you know, this whole idea of the media deciding who's president is unconstitutionally hogwash. And yeah, should Trump concede? I don't think so. I think there's plenty to question about the election, and so let's just see how it plays out. I got my popcorn, and my feet are up on the coffee table. I'm watching.
About the only thing, Tim, I'm almost certain it's 26 to 23 in terms of the delegate count. 26 delegations are controlled by Republicans, 23 controlled by Democrats, not 37. I'm sure it's not that big a disparity.
Okay. It's still a majority though, right?
It is a majority, yes. Republicans has the majority. There's no doubt about that one. They have the majority. There's no doubt about that. But getting back to this whole issue, Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, looks like Tim might have frozen. Well, let me jump in on something Tim was saying as far as the actual, going on with this or continuing to go on with this is, personally, I think it's probably unlikely Trump's going to win by continuing to go on with this. But that said, I mean, one thing I have felt fairly uncomfortable with is the way that the Democrats over the last decade or so have pushed a lot of, election security to sort of the brink as far as not really checking on people's identities or, having much security. So I actually think this is maybe a good exercise to sort of pull on the threads here and see what happens. To me, if we've got a system that's so fragile that nobody can question it without being labeled as unpatriotic and maybe an enemy of the state, I suppose, by CNN or somebody, then I think, we've got a problem with our system if that's the case. And I would actually think it's a good exercise probably to continue, especially given that we push so many new processes this last particular election. Let's test it out and find out, how durable everything was during that process.
I think we lost him, but there's a valid issue here, and you're totally right, because since before the elections, and we spoke about it on this show, we were talking about the potential problems with these mail-in ballots. We spoke about it on more than one occasion. Trump raised it many times, and other Republicans raised it many times. And what do we have now? We have a whole mess because of these mail-in ballots. Even though we had examples of it, Paterson, New Jersey, in New York City, we had problems with these mail-in ballots. And here we are, same problem again. Right now, we are dealing with this problem with the mail-in ballots, where there's poor security protocols. Like you don't know who voted, you don't know if dead people voted, you don't know if people double voted. You have no idea because the security protocols are so poor. There are some states, I think there are about 5 or 6 states, who have been using mail-in ballots for quite a while, and they seem to work just fine. But like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and all these people, this is new to them. They don't have the protocols in place. Actually, the protocols they have in place is nothing but fraud incorporated. That's all they're allowing for. It's unbelievable.
One of the things I found kind of a little bit, contradictory is, when Trump was elected the last time in 2016, it was kind of interesting. Prior to that, the Democrats had always said that any attempt to try to identify voters by ID we got Tim back. We're still discussing the elections and at least past practices of election security. Well, anyways, as far as the prior to 2016, Democrats were essentially saying that any attempt to secure an election to try and verify who's voting was essentially denying people their right to vote. Essentially, just kind of weird. I mean, if a bank asks for my ID when I go in and I say sorry, don't have one, they haven't really denied my right to bank. I just have
exactly.
ID, it's kind of understandable. So I don't really see that. But then once Trump did get elected, then suddenly election security was the most important thing ever, because there were Russians around every corner, apparently.
Every corner, exactly.
Watch our elections. And now we're to the point where, okay, so the results sort of come out in their favor, and now it's like, oh, well, we're not supposed to question anything about the.
Of course not. This is the hypocrisy we are seeing, because they have reached a point where almost anybody at any time could vote, quote unquote. Even people who are here illegally. Now they're running around with this mantra: we have to count every vote. We have to count every vote. Counting every vote is lawlessness. Okay. Because I told you guys the last time, I had 2 ballots. Well, it's no good now. We can't use them now. But I had 2 ballots in my house that I could have used. I did not, but I could have used. Were they supposed to count that too? Were they supposed to count those? You cannot count every vote. You have to count every legal vote. That's what you have to do. Every validly cast vote, yes, you count those. But everybody running around now with this mantra: oh, we must count every vote. We must all count every vote. There's a very interesting case right now as we speak about, as a result of the election, a very interesting case going on in Georgia right now, where according to the vote count as it is right now, Joe Biden apparently has won. But if you look at the results, there's something wrong in there. It has to be. Because if you compare, say, Donald Trump's vote to Senator Perdue, he is the senatorial candidate. If you compare those 2 votes, Perdue is winning by, well, he got about 803, or maybe about 800 votes more than Trump. Okay, there was a Libertarian candidate in the race, a guy named Sean Hayes or something like that. He got more votes than Joe Jorgensen. Okay, I think he got almost twice as much, not quite twice, but almost twice as much. But if you look at Joe Biden's vote compared to the senatorial candidate in Georgia, in one of the races, a guy by the name of Ossoff, Joe Biden got almost 100,000 more votes than Ossoff. So Donald Trump is behind. Donald Trump is behind Perdue. Joe Jorgensen is behind the Libertarian candidate, but Joe Biden, miraculously, in a state that normally leans Republican, got 100,000 more votes than Ossoff, his Democratic counterpart. How could that be? How?
It's interesting. It's interesting, Leon, because Georgia's on your mind. Georgia's on my mind, and I think Georgia's on everybody's mind right now.
Yeah.
And it's not a sweet sound at the moment.
Yeah.
Whatever is happening, it's going to be essentially for legislative control of the country at this point. And so, if it looks like Biden has probably won the presidency, and the House is still holding as by the Democrats, and the Senate now is in jeopardy of potentially going to an even split, I think, of 50-50, which would mean that the deciding vote would be Kamala Harris, I guess, in the Senate, which means that essentially they'd control everything at that point. And that could mean a huge slide toward a lot of socialist type policies potentially. I know certainly from the Libertarian perspective, we often are just thankful when we have gridlock, because it means there's less damage that either party can do. But Tim, did you have any? Is Georgia on your mind too?
Is Tim hearing us? Tim, are you hearing us?
Yeah, I think maybe Tim's frozen again. I think.
Yes, I don't think. Yeah. But in the meantime, while we trying to get Tim back, it is just incredible what's going on. I mean, like I said, there's no evidence as yet to suggest that the results are going to change, or Trump could overturn any of the elections at all. But there's enough evidence for us to continue looking at these votes and see what may or may not have been wrong. So right now in Georgia, they're doing an audit, they're doing a recount, and they're doing an audit of the vote, and they're going to look to see, I guess, if there was any fraud, if the results are accurate, and all that kind of stuff, which would be great. It would be fantastic, because we got to know if these results are accurate. We have to know, because, like you said, these two senatorial races in Georgia right now will determine the future of the nation for a while, at least. Because if the Democrats take the Senate and they have their House already, even though the Republicans did quite well, they are going to end up being plus maybe plus 10 or plus 11 new seats in the House of Representatives. But if they take the Senate also, even if they have to use Kamala as a tiebreaker, then the executive branch will be controlled by the Democrats. The legislative branch will be controlled by the Democrats, and then there's nothing to stop them from the radical agenda.
Well,
Talking Green New Deal, Medicare for all, the court, all kind of stuff we're talking about.
This is what is more concerning, I think, about now more than ever, because, had this been looking like, Democrats would be in control, which I guess they were during Barack Obama's early administration. They had control.
The first 2 years, yes.
Yeah. I think during more normal times, or, if we went back 20 or 30 years, a lot of people wouldn't be that alarmed. But what worries me a little bit more is this is far from anything like normal times, with COVID shutdowns. The way people have lost liberty and property rights have just been smashed in a lot of places. I don't think we haven't even begun to see some of the damage from that, and some of the likely government spending that's going to be deficit spending, just flat out money printing that's done to be able to fix these problems. I think that this is potentially a very scary time of how big of a hole we could be getting ourselves into if we were to make a huge shift toward government. So Tim, I don't know if you caught what we were on there, but essentially we were talking about the potential consequences if everything were to go to Democrats at this point, if they were to have complete control. Do you have any thoughts on that? Whoops. Our eagle is flying blind today.
I don't even know what's going on. I usually have strong internet, and I have no idea what's going on. But things all of a sudden look good right now, but that's subject to change. And
okay. This sound like me last week.
And did you have any thoughts? Well, as the consequences of everything going blue right now, any thoughts on, any concerns on your part?
Yeah, I do have a lot of concerns about going blue. With all the complete nonsense the Democrats seem to be in favor of. I mean, they're totally off the. And if they're so popular that they're going to gain control, I guess there's not much hope for the country being anything close to a more libertarian-based place. It's crazy. I don't know. I am worried. I just don't know which way it's going to go, because it still has to be passed, and people. You still got Supreme Court, limitations and things like that. And it's not looking good, especially for us libertarians. Wow. We're like, and we made so much headway too. We are very popular, and at least in, circles that are thought provoking. I mean, the people that I listen to are extremely intelligent people, and a lot of them are very successful as well. And they, it's just like, our ideas and the principles the country was founded on. And am I sounding okay right now?
Yeah.
Yes, no, we're hearing you. I'm hearing you. Yes.
Okay. If just the country is founded on these principles of limited government, and the government protects our rights to our personal rights and our property rights, and protects us against outside interference from countries trying to take us over. Well, that's kind of what we libertarians want to do, and look what's going on. So I guess I'm gonna have, and I stop arguing with morons on Facebook, so I can't even do that. But it's going to be ripe for things to argue when Biden starts going to war, if he becomes president, and there's going to be increases in places we go to bomb people. And he'll, I guess the Democrats will be cheering that on. And
well, it's funny, Tim, that you mentioned that Democrats will be cheering it on. The ground was kind of set near the end of the election when Nancy Pelosi came out and said, based on the 25th Amendment, that she wanted to put a process in place for being able to remove a sitting president without the cabinet, but through a congressional body, and that would be led by the vice president. And, clearly that wouldn't have affected Trump, most likely, unless somehow they had some leverage with Pence or something on something. But as far as with, the Democrats, I mean, I think they were kind of seeing that, hey, look, if Joe Biden gets in there, we may need to get him out of there. And I think that's, so it's funny when you say that, they might all be behind him. I'm not quite sure that's the case. I mean, they're kind of laying the groundwork to get rid of him right as they were about to elect him, which is kind of odd. I mean, you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, when I said that, I'm sorry, Leon. When I said that, I wasn't referring necessarily to a Biden presidency. It doesn't matter who's in there. They could put a chimpanzee. If the Democrats in total, the ones in the House, and then of course whoever is Kamala Harris, that psychopath. If she's in there and we go to war, the Democrats that I know, all my friends that are just like, oh my God, Trump went, did this or Trump did that, which anyway, they're going to be behind any Democrat that wants to do anything, anywhere, to anyone at any time. They'll be 100% behind it. Why? Because they're Democrats. That's all they need.
Well, during when Pelosi came out with this idea, supposed idea to invoke the 25th Amendment and get this commission to determine competency of the president, somebody was asking her about did she want to apply this to Trump. She said no, because she was so confident Biden was going to win. This was for future president, she said. But so if she was so confident that Biden was going to win, why does she need this? The obvious answer is that their intent have always been, let this half demented man get us over the line, and within a month, 6 months, a year, I guess, I don't know what their time frame is, we're going to have to get him out. Because Joe Biden is on serious decline. We know that. Okay? This is not a political statement. It is obvious. Okay? So they're going to use this. Pelosi will probably get this through, and their first attempt, if they control the Senate, she's going to get this through, and their first attempt will be to use it. Well, I don't know if Biden will sign it. That's the other thing. He will have to sign it. But their first attempt will be to use it on him, because the man is in decline. Even right now, when he's already being called president-elect, they are still hiding him from the public. He will not answer questions. He had one press conference and they give him a bunch of softball questions, but they're not, you're not seeing the normal kind of interaction between the press and Biden right now. You're not seeing it. They're still trying to hide him. So what are we going to do? Hide him for 4 years? Come on.
Well, that sound represents that we're near the end of the program. But speaking of half-demented men that you mentioning there, Leon, that you were focused on, We have another quote from somebody who qualifies on that on that rank. Apparently, Robert Reich, within a few weeks of the election being over, I guess confident that Biden was going to win. Robert Reich was the former labor secretary, I believe, from the Clinton administration, and he pops up on a lot of different shows as a somehow educated expert on some of these governmental things. Well, he apparently had tweeted out that he said, "When this nightmare is over, we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It would erase Trump's lies, comfort those who have been harmed by his hatefulness, and name every official, politician, executive, and media mogul whose greed and cowardice enabled this catastrophe." So essentially, he's talking about rounding everybody up who supported Trump, after the election. And this is just. This is kind of scary stuff. I mean, essentially, you're talking about a political enemies list and essentially cleaning house, literally, like maybe the end of The Godfather or something.
Michael Corleone going to go to work now. Yeah, Michael Corleone.
Well, the funny thing was, too, apparently he followed this up. Apparently he got some, righteous indignation for this tweet. And he said, "I love the people responding to this tweet as if it's a radical, undemocratic idea." So, I mean, he doubled down and just said,
Yes.
"No, this is not radical. This is not undemocratic. This is like, hey, let's just go round these people up and put them in a camp."
I love it. I just love it when he's done. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just was going to say, I guess he wants to line them up in front of a ditch also.
I just love it when these Democrats want to talk about truth. I don't have no problem talking about truth with them, I really don't. Okay? So let's talk about the Russia hoax. I would love to talk about that. One of their favorite things that they were so sure about, that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. And up to now, they haven't produced 1 inch of evidence of this. So let's talk about truth. I would love it. I would love it if we talk about truth. I would love it if we talk about the truth about the impeachment of Donald Trump. Oh, what's the truth about that? Let's see. Let's talk about that. You want to have your truth commission? Let's have it. And let's talk about truth.
And I'd love to
that you guys want to talk about.
We're getting near the end of the show, and so we're going to have to save that truth for the next episode. We'll dive into that further in another episode. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. You can catch more of our episodes at libertariancounterpoint.com or on Facebook at Libertarian Counterpoint. And like I said, if you want to send us comments or questions, or even some of your experiences about lockdown or having your business ruined by riots, we'd love to hear about it and maybe even have you on the show. So anyways, send us any comments, and we'll love to see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.